I've told people about the Colin Kaepernick thing, and I'm going to probably get a little controversial. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't.
Hi, this is Robert Wilkins, aka Basketball Tall. Welcome to my channel. I'm glad that you're here with me because you're in for a treat today. Considering all the things that's going on around this country, you wonder, is there ever any end in sight? Well, I have someone here with me that I think you need to hear from. And the person I have here with me today, his name is Tommy Gus Handke. And I think that what he's going to bring to you is going to be very valuable. So please keep your ears open and have an open mind about what we're about to talk about. Because this channel is about giving you hope. It's about changing lives. It's about overcoming obstacles. It's about making lives better, to be able to live your dreams. Especially in times like today, we wonder, will we ever get back on track? I believe we will. But let's welcome right now, who most people call him as Gus Handke, UnderSheriff of the Carter County Sheriff Department in Oklahoma. Welcome, Gus.
Thank you.
Gus, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on today. And, but before we even go into that direction, tell me, what prompted you to become a lawman?
I grew up in a small rural town, which is southwest of Oklahoma City, Minko. It's home of the Brahms Dairy Farm. That's what most people commonly associate it with. Mr. Brahms, they had a large, that's where the original dairy farm started there east of town. It was a town where, whenever I was growing up, about 18. My father was he was an interesting guy. He was a great guy. I loved him, but we had a lot of conflict growing up. He was a tool pusher, oil field guy all of his life until he got a little bit older. And he was a little bit wild and you know, a heavy drinker when he was younger. But being around him and experiencing some of those guys, and it gave me a different perspective. And I was into sports growing up. That's what I like to do. I played a lot of football, went to college and played some football. And as I was in college, I'm looking at things that I want to do. And naturally, we would sit up in the dorm at night and we would watch TV shows, and we watched some episode of the Cops, and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, that looks like something that I might be interested in. And I took some criminal justice classes early on just to see what I thought about it, and I liked it, and I liked the idea of it. In a small town, when you grow up like that, you usually know the police officers. I knew some of the police officers. They were pretty good folks, and they had a positive impact on my life, and I just wanted to pay that forward, and that primarily is the reason why I made the step that I was gonna pursue a career in law enforcement. I knew I wasn't gonna play professional football or anything like that. College was fun, but I mean, I knew I wasn't going on to do anything like that. And so, I mean, I'm going to prepare myself for the rest of my life. And hey, this looks like a good avenue. Let's explore this avenue, and then that's kind of how it happened.
You know, for those out there that are listening and watching, being an undersheriff, What is an undersheriff for those that don't know?
In my role at the sheriff's department, I am pretty much involved in overseeing the day-to-day operations, the patrol aspects, the jail. But typically, I try to stay more on the sheriff's side, and I deal mostly with the investigators and our patrol deputies. We have a jail administrator and assistant jail administrator, both good guys, and they handle the jail aspects.
So basically, you're the number 2 man in charge of the whole Carter County Sheriff Department, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And matter of fact, just for those that do know or don't know, the sheriff is, of course, Chris Bryant, who just recently won re-election. And that's a great thing as well, to know that, you know, we knew him for 4 years, and now we're going to get to know him even better for another 4 years. And Gus, you know, you presented something to me when the George Floyd incident occurred. And as I reached out to you, you know, to do this interview, hoping that you would do the interview, and you shared something with me. And you're talking about insight, you know, for the future, because the George Floyd incident occurred not long ago. And here you share with me a thesis in the master's course, working towards your master's degree, dated February the 6th, 2019. And it's titled Culture and its Impact on Police Use of Force, Use of Deadly Force, Police Shootings. Now, did you have a magic wand, or did a genie come by and visit you and tell you what to prepare for in the future? How did this come about?
I've just, I've told a lot of people, I've been very fortunate. I've been very blessed. I feel like I've grown a lot, especially when I look back at the last 4 to 5 years of my life. Definitely, for sure. I've been blessed. I have a lot of family members from all different walks of life. I have African American family members. I have Native American family members. I tell people, one of my best friends is a long friend of mine. I've known him over 20 years. We're involved in some business ventures together. An African American man that I look at like family to me, and you know, going through some experiences with some of those people and really opening my eyes and having some in-depth conversations with them along the way really opened my eyes to a lot of different things. And I decided, okay, well, I'm going to look at this. How does this affect where I'm at? What's going on where I'm at? I need to get a good idea of, you see on the television, the news always, and it's sad, it's tragic, George Floyd, but he's one of so many different people. There are so many tragic cases. And I said, okay, look, I need to take a look at myself. I need to see where I'm at. I need to explore where we're at here, where I work. And it's just, there needs to be some reflection and some analysis, some data that I can compile to take a look and see where we're going and see where, you know, it's one thing to be good, but you can always be great. You know, most people, you know, I tell people a lot of times, it's one thing to go to the Olympics, but you want to win a medal. So just because you're doing something good doesn't mean there's not room for a lot of improvement. You can be great at something. So overall with law enforcement, I think especially in our area, we do a good job, but we want to be great. Good is not good enough. So in having some of those, and those conversations are difficult. Those conversations are tough, and on both sides, you have to be able to open yourself up, and you have to be able to not go into a conversation with preconceived notions, and you have to make sure that you're on the level where you can gain an understanding. And even though you might not agree fully with what someone else is saying, you need to take a look and see if you can understand their points and where they're coming from. And I feel like and we've had this discussion, but I feel like most police officers are very defensive in how they, when you talk about, use of force issues and different things, we're quick to try to justify our actions, but we need to make sure that our actions are coming from a good place, coming out of our heart, and a heart issue is where everyone needs to be. And I know you're a religious man, a spiritual man, and I am too. And I tell people all the time, Christ himself was willing to wash the feet of the disciples, something that back in ancient times in Jewish culture, not even a slave would do. And Christ himself washed the feet of the disciples. And it speaks volumes that a man who was fully man and fully God, who didn't have to do anything, was just a servant leader and had a heart that was for people and toward people. And that's what we need to work on in law enforcement.
Wow. So true. Because I think when you talk about the holy word, and I think if we all adhere to the word of God, what a wonderful place this would be. But, I do understand what you're saying, definitely, because, myself being in law enforcement for quite some time, just recently retired. And you were in a family of criminal justice. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to put her on the spot. But it was a privilege and a joy working with her too. You guys have some brains over there, I must tell you. But you mentioned that you have African-American friends, and I know, being African-American, how some would say, oh yeah, they all have a friend. That's what they all say. But I do understand what you mean, because I remember coming from Louisiana and I came to the state of Oklahoma, and I was like, where are all the black people at? And then when I went to college and getting to know people, and then people telling me I've never been around a black person before. And for me, I was somewhat a little distant and wanting to, because of how we were brought up and the things we thought. I tell you what, I got to share this with you. When I used to see a person with a cowboy hat and boots on, I thought they were automatically prejudiced. I really did. Now, then all of a sudden, I'm in Oklahoma, this is cowboy and boot territory. And before you know it, I had on some boots. I started wearing, and I took pride in those boots, by the way. Okay. But just by being in school, being around guys, and I can tell you this to this day, I have some very close white friends, very close white friends. And we got to know each other, and we developed, and I mean true bona fide relationships. So for any of you out there, anywhere in this world, if you think this is just lip service, I want you to know there are genuine people out there with genuine love, great relationships. So Gus, tell me this. We having some folks that are watching now, especially kids, because my channel is mostly geared toward the young, including parents as well. Because, as I retired being a juvenile justice specialist, we work with a lot of families, and especially some of those that you send our way. What kind of advice that you can provide for them for the future?
You mentioned relationships, and relationships are important. And we've had some conversations before, and I tell people all the time, any successful venture that I've ever been involved in, whether it's working cases, in business, anything that you're doing is founded on relationships. And if you have positive relationships with people, you can accomplish a lot. It happens on a personal level. You have to be able to keep yourself open to being able to try to relate to somebody else in whatever situation it is. And we've had this conversation before about the difference between being able to relate and trying to understand and compromise. I'm not saying that you have to compromise. When something's wrong, it's wrong. But you have to have the innate ability to be able to attempt to truly understand where someone is coming from and have an open mind without immediately passing judgment or having a preconceived idea or preconceived notion that they're automatically going to be wrong based on how you were raised or something that you thought, because we've talked about this just like you alluded to before. Some of your thoughts, and I've had thoughts, you know, we all do. If you're a good, honest, transparent person, then you know there are things you've said, done, thought that you shouldn't have. And you just have to get yourself to a point where you mature to a point where you're able to have an open mind. If you're founded on principles, you don't want to compromise your principles, but find ways to meet people on common ground, and be open to entertaining something that's foreign to you that may seem strange. If you develop some understanding, may make a whole lot more sense.
So do you believe that the steps, what methods are we need to take to bridge the gap between, you know, the communities, you know, especially the Black communities, and, you know, our, you know, police departments?
Well, I don't think that we know that communication is the key, but I don't think people do a good job most often when you see failures. And I'm not speaking about just generally in our area. I think we have some pretty good relationships and the communication is good. But I think in some of these larger cities where you see some of these things on such an exaggerated scale, I don't think there's a lot of communication and a lot of good, solid communication and good, solid relationships between the community leaders and leaders at the government level. You know, people have to be open, and I've made mention of this before, but if you're an older, old school mentality type person and you're not open to, you know, you're just set in your ways and you're not open to being able to bridge that gap, you know, you're out of date with where we're going. You're all you're doing is causing a hindrance to the progress that we're trying to make.
Wow. Wow. That was very powerful what you just said there. And because I could see I definitely understand what you're saying, because, you know, we have a certain mindset based on what generation that, you know, we come from. And I see the younger people today, especially those who have been marching around, you know, the country and so forth, is that younger generation. So you can definitely see that the change is coming. How quick it might be, that's something we'll have to wait and see. But as criminal justice reform, you know, and reading I'm just in awe with your thesis here, culture and its impact on police use of force, use of deadly, oh, wow, force, police shootings. And you wrote this back in February of 2019, and here we are today in 2020, past, you know, the George Floyd, well, we're still in but of course, about a month ago when all this occurred, and you were already well ahead of the curve in your thought process because of the experiences that your relationships that you've developed, and some of the things that you may have encountered along the way. And I definitely want to applaud you for that, because it's something that I think a person in your position and who you are, that what makes the world a difference. And the things that you're saying that can, I think that if others all around the country take heed to what you're saying, you know, we can expedite this matter much, much quicker. You know, there's the talk about defunding the police. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think what you see with, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, you see people knee-jerk reactions. I saw some of the city council members there in Minneapolis make some comments and immediately jump to, well, we're just going to defund the police. And it's not feasible, but you have to understand that's where they're coming out of their emotions that are running high. A lot of people we've discussed this, when these things have police officers that are extremely defensive, you have citizens that are upset, and listen, this is the deal. if you're living in a community and you feel like that you're not being treated fairly and you're angry, police officers have to understand, or at least attempt to try to understand where you're coming from. And if they're not willing to, then they're not serving out of the right place. And if you just want to close off and say, okay, well, you know, you really don't have your complaint is baseless, or we're not going to give any kind of serious thought to what you have to say, or we're not going to give any kind of consideration to how you feel. That's that old guard that we're talking about, that it's time for you probably to move on and go do something else, retire or go wherever. You know, I understand. I've told people about the Colin Kaepernick thing, and I'm going to probably get a little controversial. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. But you know, when no one listens, they sure started listening when he knelt. When he took a knee, people started listening. Now, however you feel about that, what he did was effective. Whether you agree with it or whether you don't agree with it, it got people's attention. And, you know, good for him that he felt strongly about it and that he was convicted enough about it in his own person to do spark the discussion. Now, good things can come from that discussion when people are willing to sit down and be transparent and get to the table and say, okay, let's really have a hard discussion, because we don't want to sugarcoat things. We don't want to sit here and placate and make it. Let's get down to a real discussion about what is happening in our community and what I see. And I hear a lot of people say, well, he's not the guy. He shouldn't have been the poster poster guy for that, because he didn't have a hard life or this or that or whatever. Well, he was the man that had the courage to open the discussion.
And you know, how many of us have courage to stand up for our convictions? And I couldn't say that I would have done it, but of course someone did. So here we are. And now with the coronavirus, with, you know, the shutdowns, now temporary shutdowns, and other new laws being mandated upon us, it makes you wonder, where are we headed next? But I do know when we have guys like you that's in charge, it makes a world of difference in the, you know, hope for the direction in which we're going. Matter of fact, I think if we had guys like you all over the country, Gus Handke, that this world would continue to be a much better place, because you've also listed your faith. You know, this is an unsteady time that we're in. You know, none of us have never seen anything like it. And I think that with people like you and other people out there, I think we're going to make it. I have faith. I have that hope that good things are going to come. But like you said, you know, we have the elderly population with a different mindset. And of course, you know, we have that younger generation who also has a different view of things. But we must continue to listen to one another, talk to one another, get to know one another. Because in today's time, you know, a lot of interracial marriages have taken place all over the United States. And for many of us, and probably getting nearing to the point, most of us, we all have relatives of that effect as well in our families. But I just want to thank you for taking, you know, a few minutes out of your time to share with us your thoughts, share with us, you know, for your writing of your thesis, and congratulations on obtaining that master's degree. And I'm just happy to know that you are our UnderSheriff, the second man in charge of Carter County. Folks, I like to say that I think we're in good hands. At least this is the beginning of something even better. Brother Handke, I'll give you the last words.
Thank you. You're a good man. I've always had a tremendous amount of respect for you, my wife as well. Your contribution to the law enforcement community in this area is, you definitely contributed and made a difference during your time. And I'm grateful to you for that. I'm thankful to you for that. I look forward to continuing to view these podcasts and where you're going in the future. And like I said, you're a good man, and I've enjoyed talking.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you like the content that I'm putting out here, please subscribe to this channel and tap on the notification bell, and you'll be the first to be informed when a new broadcast is posted on this channel. And please share it with everyone, because why is it that you hear something of substance, of value, and you just keep it to yourself? This is what brings about a change when we share it with other people. And UnderSheriff Handke, I definitely appreciate you. Please forgive me for calling you Gus. It's in me. But I know who you are. You are the UnderSheriff of Carter County. And thank you once again for taking out the time to answer some questions and share with everyone where you feel we need to go or where we're headed next.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Robert.